What's going on, guys, in the works, and welcome to 2020, the year of Battlefield 4. But we're going to be talking about some Battlefield 4 stuff. We've actually got some solid details out. But before we get into it, make sure you guys go over to battlefield.com and log in to get your I Was There dog tag. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you see that little bar at the bottom that looks like it's like an eighth of the way full with like red and yellow. Basically, if enough people log in, they're going to give us another teaser for Battlefield 4 before it actually releases. Now, the big reveal will come on the 27th. If you were invited to the EA event, you will actually get to see it on the 26th. But it's going to be awesome to finally get to see some gameplay from the actual game to see what DICE has been up to. But if you take a look at the background here, we can clearly see that this is a skyline, and one of the rumored environments in the new Battlefield 4 is that it was going to be based in China. Well, everything I've read, all the information I've looked at, pretty much confirms that that's definitely going to be the case, and what we're looking at here is some sort of Chinese skyline, which it really looks awesome. And here we'll remove some of the borders here so you can get a more clear picture of it. And I am really stoked for this because that is going to be nice to have, three factions instead of two, because that was one of the boring things about Battlefield 3 is there's always Russian versus US. It's going to be nice to see the return of the Chinese into the fray. Who knows, maybe they'll throw a fourth faction in there, that way it evens it out a little bit. But the cover art that leaked, this is basically the Battlefield 4 cover art. Pretty generic, it's pretty much what we expected. It's more of an updated version of the Battlefield 3 cover art. It's the same screenshot we saw on the website. Basically, they took the updated soldier, added a 4 to it, and bam, there's your cover art. So this wasn't really that interesting. The interesting part of all these details comes in the technical standpoint. What is this game going to run at on consoles? Will it be on next-gen consoles? And that question has finally been answered. Yes, it will be on next-gen consoles as well as current-gen consoles. So let's say you don't want to upgrade to a PS4 or an Xbox 720 right away. You will be able to play Battlefield 4. However, it will not be in the same capacity that you would on the next-gen consoles. They are limited. The PS3 and the Xbox 360 are getting a little bit older. It's harder to make games optimize for them, especially as graphics get better, as games get bigger. So Battlefield 4 on the current gen consoles will be very much so like Battlefield 3. It'll be 24-player servers, 30 frames per second. However, if you pick it up on the next gen consoles, you'll be able to play it in 720 at 60 frames per second locked. That's awesome, guys. That's a big upgrade. If you've never been able to play Battlefield in 60 frames per second, it's such a different experience. It plays so much smoother. So I'm really excited for the console side of things. Even though you will have to upgrade your console, it's still nice to see that you guys are going to get an experience that's more on par. Another thing is they're actually going to have higher player count servers for the next gen consoles. It's rumored that it may go all the way up to 64. I know that 64 will be the cap. They won't have any more than that on PC. So a lot of people were really pushing for like 100-person servers, 128 people servers. That will not be coming from what I understand. But one of the cool features they are adding is dynamic weather. And you're like, dynamic weather? Does that mean snow, rain, sleet? Yes, that's basically what it's going to be, which is cool. And that's another strain that you will see on the GPU. If you've ever done like a benchmark test, you'll know that water effects are some of the most demanding things to have in a game. In fact, a lot of people turn those off. Because I know even me on Crysis 3, I turned that way down just because the water effects can really be a drain on your GPU. So that's interesting to see how the current gen consoles will handle the dynamic weather. But overall, I think that sounds really, really awesome. Now, I already mentioned that this will be taking place in 2020 in the Chinese theater of war. So you will be having a lot of maps that are based out of China, which means we're going to see maps like the Great Wall. What you would expect out of an Asian-oriented map. We might actually get to see some jungle maps. Which is really awesome. I'm really excited for that type of stuff. They've also said they're going to be making the maps much larger, but there will also be smaller maps from the get-go. So if you like close quarters, you won't have to wait so long to get close quarters. But if you like bigger maps, the default maps will come in the game that will be a little bit larger. So they're really trying to make it a little bit more appealing to all sorts of different play styles, which I think is good. I think that's what made the vanilla maps so good in Battlefield 3 is because we had maps like Caspian Border, Firestorm, but we also had maps like Grand Bazaar, any of those close quarters in your face. Metro, I can't believe I forgot that off the bat. Metro was a close quarters map. So I think they're really going above and beyond and giving us different maps. So, with the DLCs, they tried really hard to give us different looks, and I think they're going to try to do that from the get-go with Battlefield 4. So I'm actually pretty excited for that, though. I think China is a very versatile environment because, you've got deserts, you've got big cities, you've got jungles in the south of China, so all sorts of different areas where they can go to. So I don't think there will be a lot of problems with some really, really unique maps. Now, One of the cool things that I've seen in every single article talking about Battlefield 4 is that DICE really wants to bring back Destruction. Because let's face it, Destruction was not that great in Battlefield 3. You know, it seemed like it was a lot less than it actually was in Bad Company 2. So they're going to bring back Destruction on a higher scale. Which will mean it will be more demanding, and that's one of the reasons why I think they really wanted to move over to the next gen consoles. But it will be nice to finally, some bad helicopter flying. It will be nice to finally see Destruction return how it should be, you know, because I don't think Battlefield 3 really took advantage of the Destruction aspect of the Frostbite engine. But I am really excited to see what they do with these maps. They've got a lot at their fingertips. Like I said, China really expands what they can do, and if they're going to up the Destruction, I'm just really excited to see that. I know one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about is that there's going to be more cinematics at the end of every map, similar to when the tower falls on Caspian Border, stuff like that. So I'm actually really pumped to see that. They've actually already released some information saying that they have already worked on the first DLC. So basically, if you pre-order the game, you're going to get a DLC for free, much like they did with Back to Karkan, which, you know, I don't like it when developers focus on DLC out of the gate, but the more I think about it, I'm like, okay, most hardcore Battlefield players are going to pre-order and get the limited edition anyways. And if you do buy it, you'll probably get premium somewhere down the line, because I'm sure they'll do premium again, which will include the DLC. But it will be a free DLC if you pre-order and get the limited edition of the game, which is awesome. You know, I guess I can get behind that. It does encourage people to pre-order the game, which from a business standpoint makes a lot of sense. But, you know, I would rather them focus on making a good game rather than DLC right out of the gate. But the last bit of cool information that I want to touch on is the return of the Commander. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, to break it down in simple terms, old Battlefield games basically had a role where someone would be almost like an RTS. They would be up, they would be directing troops from above. It would have a top-down view, and it was actually a lot of fun. It was one of the cool things that separated Battlefield games from the other first-person shooters. I know when I used to play an old PC, when I was playing, 1942, one of the things that I liked so much about it was that it was different than, let's say, Medal of Honor. Because Medal of Honor was a straight first-person shooter, whereas Battlefield, they had the command aspect where you could tell people where to go. You know, you could say, okay, we need you to go over here in Cap C. Okay, here, have a helicopter and go over here in Cap E. It's one of the things that I'm really excited to see that they actually said is going to be returning in some capacity. Now, will it be the same as in past games? That remains to be seen. But it's nice that they're actually taking the feedback from Battlefield 3 and being like, okay, we messed up. We took Commander out of Battlefield 3. Here you go, have it back. And I think that's pretty humble on DICE's part, because a lot of people were just absolutely... I was shocked when I found out that Commander wasn't in Battlefield 3. I was like, how can you have a Battlefield, a true Battlefield title without the Commander aspect? That's just the thing that made Battlefield Battlefield. So it will be nice to see that return. There's not a lot of details on that, so I can't really comment on a lot, other than saying that I'm really super excited for it. But that's all I really have to talk about. I mean, there's so much information out there. I could probably make like a 30-minute video touching about the ins and outs of Battlefield 4 information. But for the most part, I'm going to let you guys go over there, look at some of the stuff that I've discovered. I'm going to link 3 or 4 different things in the description down below all my normal links. So you'll have to expand the description. But it's going to have a link to the Battlefield website itself, so you can go over there, log in, get your I was there dog tag. It's also going to have a link to my favorite rumor site, which is MP First. They have a pretty good piece on all the rumors. They summarize it really, really well. So I will link you to that as well. But let me know what you guys think of all this stuff. What changes would you like to see in Battlefield 4, and what do you think of what the changes that we've heard about so far? I honestly can't think of a lot of negative things, so I'm actually pretty excited. But let me know in the description, and if you missed some other videos, here's a chance to catch up, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.